You know what the cruelest form of torture is? It's not being lied to. It's being lied to while you're expected to smile and pretend everything is normal. It's holding someone who's already let go. It's investing your energy into a woman who's already given her body to another man, and you're the last one to figure it out. Most men walk around blind, convincing themselves that the distance they feel is just a phase, that her coldness is just stress, that everything will go back to normal soon. But deep down in that place you refuse to visit, you already know something's wrong. You just don't want to face it, and that's the trap. Because women rarely confess their betrayals, but they always reveal them. Their bodies, their habits, their words, they all leak the truth drop by drop until the evidence becomes undeniable. The only question is, will you see it before it's too late, or will you keep playing the fool in your own relationship? Today I'm going to walk you through 8 signs that expose a woman who just slept with someone else. These aren't paranoid theories or bitter rants. These are psychological patterns that show up again and again when infidelity enters the picture. And the last sign, it's the one she can't hide, no matter how careful she thinks she's being. But before we dive in, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and smash the like. Drop a comment and tell me what city you're watching from because betrayal doesn't care about borders, and I want to see how far this truth is spreading. Now let's get into it. The first sign is something most men feel but refuse to acknowledge. It's silent, it's heavy, and it destroys you from the inside out. Number 1, the shift in physical intimacy. There's a language that bodies speak. It's not verbal, it's not logical, but when you've been with a woman long enough, you know that language fluently. You know when her touch means something. You know when her kiss carries weight. You know when she's truly present with you and when she's just going through the motions. And you also know when that connection dies. This is the sign that cuts deepest because it doesn't announce itself. It creeps in quietly. You reach for her hand and she doesn't squeeze back. You lean in for a kiss and she offers her cheek instead of her lips. You try to get close in bed and she shifts away mumbling something about being tired. At first you tell yourself it's normal. Relationships go through phases. She's just exhausted. Maybe it's work. Maybe it's hormones. You make excuses because the alternative is too painful to consider. But here's the truth. Most men refuse to face. When a woman has been fulfilled by another man, she doesn't come back to you with hunger. She comes back satisfied, and satisfaction leaves no room for you. Think about it. If she's already given herself to someone else, why would her body crave yours? The desire has been spent. The energy has been directed elsewhere. What's left for you is the shell, the routine, the obligation. She's there physically, but emotionally and intimately, she's gone. The mistake men make here is denial. You convince yourself this is just what happens in long-term relationships. The spark fades. The passion cools. But that's a lie you tell yourself to avoid the harder truth. Attraction doesn't die from time. It dies when it's redirected. So, what do you do with this information? First, stop ignoring what you feel. If her body has gone cold toward you, acknowledge it. Don't brush it off. Don't make excuses for her. Second, test the waters. Pull back. Stop initiating. See if she notices. See if she reaches for you on her own, or if the distance just keeps growing. A woman who still wants you will eventually close the gap. A woman who's checked out will let the silence stretch until you're living like roommates instead of lovers. Your job isn't to beg for her touch. Your job is to recognize when it's gone and decide whether you're willing to stay in a relationship where your intimacy has been handed to someone else. Because if her body has gone silent, don't think the truth will stay hidden. If you miss it in her touch, you'll catch it in her rituals. Number 2, the obsessive cleansing routine. When a woman crosses the line with another man, she doesn't walk back into your life smelling like betrayal. She walks in smelling fresh, too fresh, a new perfume that wasn't there this morning, a shower that lasted twice as long as usual, clothes swapped for no clear reason, underwear changed when it doesn't match the flow of her day. On the surface, it looks like self-care. In reality, it's a cover-up. This is what I call the erasing ritual. She's not just cleaning her body, she's trying to scrub away the evidence and maybe even the guilt. And most men miss it because they want to believe the best. You tell yourself she just likes feeling fresh or she's trying out new scents. That's how You gaslight yourself because facing the darker possibilities too uncomfortable. Here's the psychology behind it. A woman knows her body tells stories. Skin holds scents, hair carries traces, clothes remember contact. So she washes, she sprays. She erases the evidence before you get close enough to notice. And the irony, the harder she tries to erase, the louder it becomes to anyone actually paying attention. Now, let me be clear, not every shower means betrayal. That's not the point. The point is change. If she never rushed to the bathroom the moment she got home but suddenly does, if she's guarding her laundry like it contains state secrets, if her hygiene habits have suddenly become obsessive, you don't ignore it, you observe. Psychology isn't about absolutes, it's about shifts. It's about noticing what no longer fits the pattern of who she was with you. So what's the move? Stop dismissing your instincts. Don't laugh it off. Don't convince yourself she's just taking better care of herself. Pay attention. Connect the dots. If this behavior repeats, especially after unexplained absences or late nights, you already know what's happening. The mistake is turning yourself into an accomplice by refusing to see. You smell the new perfume, but you call it self-improvement instead of deception. You notice the over-the-top cleanliness, but you label it growth instead of guilt. That's how you become complicit in your own betrayal. The solution is awareness without accusation. You don't need to confront her with rage. You need to see clearly, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. That clarity alone will shift how you move forward. But hygiene is just the surface layer. Underneath, there's something even more revealing, because when her body is clean, she still has to deal with her emotions, and guilt has a way of spilling out in unexpected directions. Number 3, sudden and unjustified anger. When guilt becomes too heavy to carry, a woman doesn't confess it, she transfers it. And the easiest target, you're the problem. You walk through the door, and instead of a greeting, you get criticism. You didn't text enough. You loaded the dishwasher wrong. You're too quiet. You're too loud. Whatever you do, it's not good enough. That irritation isn't random. It's strategic. Here's the psychology. If she can paint you as the villain, she doesn't have to feel like the betrayer. She rewrites the story in her mind. In her version, she didn't step outside the relationship because she wanted to. She did it because you weren't attentive enough, or you were too controlling, or you let yourself go. This is projection at its finest. She can't handle the conflict inside herself, so she pushes it onto you. The trap most men fall into is defending themselves. You try to explain. You argue thinking logic will resolve it, but you can't outlogic guilt. The more you defend yourself, the more ammunition she gets to keep painting you as the bad guy. And before you know it, you're walking on eggshells in your own home, apologizing for things you didn't even do. Here's the shift. Stop playing defense. You don't need to win the argument. You need to protect your dignity. Next time she snaps at you over something trivial, don't take the bait. Don't argue. Don't beg for understanding. Look her in the eye and say calmly, you don't need to create conflict to justify what you've already done. Then step back, not out of weakness, but out of strength. You're showing her that you see the tactic and you won't dance to it. That one move flips the dynamic, because when you refuse to play the role she wrote for you, her entire script collapses. The weight of her guilt sits where it belongs, with her. Men often ask me, isn't staying silent weak? No, weakness is letting someone manipulate you into chaos. Strength is maintaining control when someone is trying to provoke you into losing it. You're not ignoring the problem. You're refusing to be distracted by manufactured drama. But projection is powerful, and it's not the final mask. There's another battlefield where the truth reveals itself without her even speaking, and it's written directly into her physical being. Number 4, physical changes. You can't ignore. A woman can rehearse her excuses. She can control her tone. She can perfect her story until it sounds airtight. But there's one place she can't hide: her body. And this is where most men betray themselves. Not because they can't see the signs, but because they refuse to look. You know her body. You know her rhythms, her responses, her normal state. That's why when something changes, you feel it immediately, even if you don't want to admit it. Maybe she feels different. Maybe her body carries tension it didn't before, or a relaxation that feels out of place. Maybe her physical responses have shifted either exaggerated or strangely absent. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's glaring, but it's never random. Here's the harsh part. You don't need medical expertise to notice, you just need honesty. Men explain it away constantly. Maybe it's hormones, maybe she's stressed. And yes, those things happen. But when the shift is sudden, when it doesn't align with her usual patterns, you owe it to yourself to pay attention. Because ignoring what your senses have already registered is the fastest path to self-humiliation. The mistake is thinking that by pretending everything's fine, you're protecting the relationship. You're not. You're just postponing the inevitable collapse while your dignity erodes day by day. A body that's been with another man carries an imprint, not always visible but always felt. And when you sense it but force yourself to stay quiet, you're lying to yourself more than she's lying to you. So, what do? First, stop running from your intuition. If something feels off, let yourself register it. Don't shove it down. Second, stop overcompensating. Men often respond to these changes by trying harder. More affection, more patience, more effort, as if pouring more energy in will fix what's already been taken. It won't. You don't win desire back by throwing effort at emptiness. You win clarity by recognizing when connection has been severed. Here's a practical step. Instead of chasing her physically, step into observation. If intimacy feels wrong, pull back and watch. Don't accuse, don't interrogate. Just notice how consistent the change is. That awareness becomes your shield. It prevents you from investing more into someone who's already emotionally detached. And here's the deeper truth. If you ignore your senses, you're not being strong. You're being scared. Strength isn't denial. Strength is facing what you already know even when it burns. But guilt doesn't always show up as coldness. Sometimes, to cover the cracks, a woman swings in the opposite direction. She becomes warm, affectionate, almost tender in a way that feels too good to be true. And that's exactly what it is. Number 5, overcompensation through affection. Not every betrayal looks cold. Sometimes it walks through your door wrapped in kisses, hugs, and sudden sweetness. And if you're not paying attention, you'll mistake guilt for love. This is one of the cruelest tricks because it plays directly on your hope. You've sensed her pulling away. You felt the silence and suddenly she's holding your hand again, kissing you on the forehead, whispering, "I love you." With tears in her eyes, your heart wants to believe it's real. You think she's coming back to me, but she's not. She's trying to come back to herself. That affection isn't for you. It's for her conscience. Here's the psychology. After crossing the line, many women don't pull further away. They pull closer. Not because they've rediscovered desire, but because they need to silence the guilt screaming inside them, touching you, cooking for you, saying sweet things. It's all theater. The performance isn't to keep you happy. It's to keep her from drowning in self-disgust. The mistake men make is treating this affection like a second chance. You drop your guard, you stop observing, you breathe out in relief, thinking the storm has passed. And that's when you lose all leverage. You become the comfort object, the safe space she clings to, while her passion burns somewhere else. You end up holding her guilt, not her love. So what's the move? Learn to test the source. Ask yourself, does this affection come with consistency or only in waves after unexplained absences? Does she touch you with genuine desire, or does it feel rehearsed, almost forced? Does she look you in the eyes when she says she loves you, or do the words feel hollow? Those questions cut through the fog. And here's the tough medicine. Don't reward guilty affection. Don't let her wipe her conscience clean on your shoulders. You don't need hugs born from betrayal. What you need is honesty, even if it's painful. Sometimes the strongest thing you can say is this: "I'd rather have your silence than your guilty embrace." That statement isn't for her. It's for you. It's your way of reclaiming self-respect in the face of false tenderness. Because love doesn't need theater. Real connection doesn't show up only after guilt. If her affection feels like an apology instead of genuine desire, you already know the difference. And once you know, you can never go back to pretending. But if you keep accepting her guilty embrace, the next stage gets worse because she won't just touch you without desire, she'll stay with you physically while her mind drifts miles away. Number 6, emotional detachment. During intimacy, there's a difference between a body lying next to you and a soul present with you. And once you felt that difference, it's impossible to unfeel it. This is where betrayal cuts deepest. Not because of what she does, but because of what she withholds. She gives you her body, but she no longer gives you herself. Picture this. You're in bed together. Everything looks normal from the outside. She's there, she touches you, she moves, she even makes sounds. But something fundamental is missing. Her eyes are empty. Her energy doesn't sync with yours. You can feel that she's somewhere else replaying a memory that doesn't include you. That's not intimacy, that's performance. And here's the brutal truth. A woman who's emotionally absent during intimacy is already gone. You're not making love. You're playing a role in her cover-up. The men who ignore this always tell themselves the same comforting lies. She's just tired. It's stress from work. But deep down, you know the difference. Tiredness still allows presence. Stress still allows connection. This absence, it's a void. The mistake most men make is pushing harder. You think if I try more, if I'm more patient, more attentive, she'll come back. So you give more effort hoping to win her over. But the more you push, the further she drifts. Because a fire isn't missing, it's burning somewhere else. And every ounce of extra effort you give just teaches her one thing. She doesn't need to give anything back. So what's the solution? Stop chasing ghosts. Respect yourself enough to notice when her soul isn't with you. Pull back, say less, and most importantly, don't confuse physical participation with emotional presence. When her spirit has left the relationship, your job isn't to drag it back. It's to decide whether you'll keep lying in a bed that grows colder by the night. Here's a practical step. Next time you sense that absence, don't cover it with more effort. Pause. Look at her, and in your mind, tell yourself the truth. I'm not here to beg for connection. I'm here to recognize reality. That shift in mindset alone changes everything. It stops you from being the man who tries to revive a bond that's already been buried. Because being next to a woman who isn't truly with you isn't love. It's humiliation. And if you let that humiliation settle, the next sign will expose it in plain sight. She won't just leave you emotionally absent in bed. She'll start leaving you physically absent in time. Number 7, unexplained absences and weak excuses. When love is real, time bends to make room for it. A woman who still desires you will find her way back to you, even on her busiest days. But when her fire is gone, suddenly the clock turns against you. She's late again, and every excuse feels thinner than the last. Work ran long, her phone died, a friend needed her, traffic was terrible. At first you want to believe it. You convince yourself these are reasonable explanations, because yes, life gets complicated. But when complications turn into patterns, when lateness becomes routine, it's not about life anymore. It's about priority, and you're no longer at the top of her list. Here's the psychology. Lateness is more than just missing time. It's a test. She's not just running behind, she's measuring how much you'll tolerate. She wants to see if you'll question it, if you'll push back, or if you'll keep accepting less while hoping for more. Every time you let it slide without addressing it, you train her. You teach her that your dignity is negotiable, that your boundaries are flexible, that disrespect has no consequences. The trap most men fall into is silence. You see the inconsistency. You feel the sting, but you swallow it. You tell yourself, if I say something, I'll sound insecure or controlling. But insecurity isn't asking for respect. Insecurity is pretending you don't notice when respect is absent. So what's the move? Call it what it is. Not with yelling, not with begging, but with boundaries. The next time she drifts in late with another flimsy story, don't interrogate her. Don't demand a detailed explanation. Simply look at her and state the truth. You weren't here, and that tells me everything I need to know. Then let the silence sit. That silence is more powerful than any argument because it places the responsibility back where it belongs on her choices. Here's a practical step. Track the pattern, not the individual excuse. Don't waste energy dissecting the details of each story. Instead, pay attention to frequency, to tone, to how your gut reacts every time it happens. Patterns tell the truth even when words don't. And here's the harsh reality. A woman who still chooses you will always come home. Maybe late occasionally, sure, but not as a habit. If she's no longer returning to you with consistency, it's because she's already returning to someone else. But lateness is only half the picture. Because even when she tries to cover her tracks, her own words will eventually betray her. And when her story collapses under its own contradictions, that's when the truth finally breaks wide open. Number 8, the collapse of her story. Stories are fragile things. They can be rehearsed, polished, repeated. But the moment pressure builds, cracks appear. And when a woman has crossed the line, her story eventually collapses under the weight of its own contradictions. You've seen it. She comes home late, words tumbling out too fast, details that don't quite match up. One night, it's a coworker who needed help. The next time you ask, it was a last-minute errand. You notice the gaps, the shifting timelines, the way her tone doesn't match her words. And most telling of all, you notice her eyes. They don't hold your gaze anymore. They dart, they drop, they flicker with unease. That's not stress, that's deception, struggling to maintain balance. Here's the mistake men make. They demand airtight evidence. They want proof, a smoking gun, something undeniable before they'll trust their instincts. But the truth doesn't always come with receipts. It comes in inconsistencies. It comes in the way her story unravels. The more you listen, the harder she tries to control the narrative. The more obvious it becomes that the narrative is slipping through her fingers. So, what's the move? Stop playing detective. You don't need to gather evidence for a courtroom trial. You already have the signals, the changes, the silences, the patterns. When her story collapses, you don't argue with it. You step out of it. You don't beg her to make it make sense. You don't yell for confessions. You simply decide, I don't believe you and I don't need to anymore. That's not an accusation. That's a boundary. And here's the empowering shift. Once you stop demanding explanations, you reclaim your power. You stop being the man chasing clarity from someone who thrives on confusion. You become the man who draws the line. And the line is simple: respect or nothing. Here's a practical step. Practice quiet recognition. The next time her story starts wobbling, don't fill the silence with questions. Let it fall. Don't rescue her from the weight of her own contradictions. That silence is your ally. It exposes what words are trying to hide. And understand this, you don't need to scream cheater to regain your dignity. All you need is clarity and the courage to act on it. Because when her story collapses, the truth is no longer the issue. The only issue left is your decision. Will you keep lying to yourself, or will you stand up for the man you know you are? You've just heard the 8 signs. And let's be crystal clear. This isn't about turning you into a paranoid detective, obsessively hunting for every tiny detail. It's about opening your eyes so you stop betraying yourself. Because the harshest betrayal isn't what she does in secret. It's what you allow yourself to ignore in plain sight. The goal here was never to catch her red-handed. The goal is to reclaim your dignity, your boundaries, and your power as a man who refuses to settle for less than he deserves. That's why these signs matter. They aren't just clues of infidelity. They're warnings. Warnings that something is off, something needs addressing, and that ignoring it will only cost you more of your self-respect. Now, here's the truth most men miss. Not every sign guarantees betrayal. Sometimes distance comes from stress, exhaustion, or years of poor communication. That's why your job isn't to accuse blindly. It's to test, to observe, and to confront reality directly. If there's room to repair, you have the conversation. You reset boundaries. You fight for connection. But if the evidence stacks up, if every sign confirms what your gut already knows, then the most masculine thing you can do is walk away with your dignity intact. Because love is never worth trading your self-respect. So here's my challenge to you. Pick one situation in your life where you've ignored your own instincts. Maybe it's her sudden coldness. Maybe it's her constant irritation. Maybe it's stories that never quite add up. Don't push it aside this time. Face it. Decide whether it's a problem you can solve together or whether it's the end of the line. Either way, the decision belongs to you, not to her lies, not to your fears, to you. Before you go, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and share this video with a man who's still refusing to see what's right in front of him. And in the comments, I want to hear your story. Have you ever noticed one of these signs? How did you handle it? Because your experience might be exactly what another man needs to hear before it's too late. This isn't the end of your journey. It's the beginning of taking back what was always yours. Your self-respect, your clarity, and your freedom to choose love without ever losing yourself.